What's going on, everybody? Ooh, my computer just shook a lot. What's going on, everybody? This is Jordan Ahisi, and welcome to episode 26 of the Culture 316 podcast. I am one of your hosts and one of your producers, Jordan Ahisi.
And I'm your co-host Mo. How's everyone today?
Thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode. Um, if you are listening to us, we thank you for tuning in and supporting. Please be able to rate the show, give us a 5 stars wherever you stream your podcast. If you're listening via YouTube or watching via YouTube, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, save, click that bell notification so that you can be up to date on everything pertaining to the Culture 316 podcast. As you can tell by Mo's tone, my tone, this is one of them shows. A lot has been happening in the world of pro wrestling, a lot of somber news, a lot of, other news that, is neutral. But I think we're going to just get started with clearly the most important topic of the show. This week, on Tuesday evening, the wrestling world was shaken to its core as Tony Khan tweeted out that Jay Briscoe, one half of the 13-time Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, had passed away at the age of 38. He died in an automobile accident. His two daughters have been hospitalized and both require substantial surgery. They are in critical condition, I believe, but they are both stable. Um, and they require substantial surgery in order to get back to full health or to get back to where they were. Um, I just kind of wanted to use this time to just kind of reflect and kind of get your take on everything that's been happening. So I'm going to start with you, Mo. How do you feel about this whole situation with?
Jesus.
Yeah, it's heavy. But I just
It
wanted to
took
know
me
your take on it.
back. Yeah, no. It just took me back to the same shift that happened when we lost Brody and how it didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel real. And then I'm over here searching all over Twitter because I saw Tony Khan write it, and then I saw like Dave Meltzer, and I saw everyone else writing it, and it didn't feel real. I'm like, dude, we just watched this man last month put on like one of the greatest tag team matches, at least I witnessed, with
Mm-hmm.
FTR, and just like that, the man is gone. And to hear the way that he went out was him being a father. And it brought like a tear to my eye, man, because I'm just like, I don't know Jay Briscoe. I don't know him personally. And I know that his name is very controversial due to like his gimmick and all that stuff. But I'm sitting here reading personal antidotes that everyone provided on Twitter, from people like Cody, Sami Zayn, many people that were in ROH. I think even Seth Rollins said that there wouldn't have been a Seth Rollins without Jay Briscoe. I believe in even the commentators or the ring announcers from ROH shared like think pieces about the whole situation, and it just it brought me to tears because it like again say what you want to say about the comments, but like I got off of that this was an amazing person and that this was a man, and to see him go out just again doing nothing but just trying to go about his day-to-day life and being a father. That's just wow. 38 years old is insane, and the timing was just terrible. Terrible considering that his brother's birthday was the next day. Terrible considering that I don't know the ages of his two daughters, but I still have my father in my life, and I'm petrified at 25 years old to imagine not having a father. To be so young and see to like the connection that he had with his daughter, watching cheerleading videos of them practicing with each other, that brought like a tear to my eye, man. I'm about to cry now. I was like thinking about it, but it's just like you could tell he loved being a family man. Um, and I can't imagine what his wife is going through. I can't imagine what his kids are going through. Um, from my knowledge, one of them I think is half paralyzed. I don't know if that's temporary. I don't know if that's a permanent thing, but it's tough all around. And it's just like I'm still gathering like my thoughts towards it because it's just like, damn, like it's really insane how life just comes at you that fast, and just like that, this the smallest thing could happen, and you're gone and everyone's life is just changed and shifted. It feels cold. It feels cold. It's the best way to describe it right now. The temperature in the wrestling world just feels very cold. On top of the other news that's been going on in the world right now, pro wrestling, this has to be the saddest one. Like I said, I had the same chills as with the loss of Brody. And I feel like it's going to take some time for fans to recover from this one. I'm going to pause my thoughts right here and give you the mic on this. What is your reaction, I guess, to this situation?
First off, I want to send my love, my well wishes, my prayers to his family, his wife, all of his peers. Um, there's an old saying that I saw a while ago about legacy, where they said that legacy is not what you leave behind, but it's about what you leave in people. And when you hear these stories about Jay Briscoe, you can tell that he left a lot of love. He left a lot of love in people, and he left a lot of hope and good cheer and good character. And yes, obviously there were controversial comments and made in the past by him, but you can tell that overall he was a good man and that he was a good father. Obviously, a all timer when it comes to the sport of professional wrestling. I think it's safe to say that the Briscoes will go down as one of the best tag teams of all time, easily the best tag team in Ring of Honor history. And sadly enough, they died champions. I mean, the Briscoes' last match was against FTR to win those Ring of Honor tag titles. And, but more importantly than that, and what kind of supersedes all of that is just his man, it's just difficult. Like from a personal standpoint, these are one of those things that are very, very hard to process because, like you said, he died being a father. He was taking his kids to cheer practice, and you see videos beginning to circulate of him with his daughters, and seeing the daughters in the state that they're in, or hearing about the daughters in the state that they're in now. And we don't know if they're like paralyzed or severely injured, but going through all of that and then not being able to call your father or reach out to your father, I know is just traumatic and disheartening on just like a different level. And my heart just really just goes out to them. And it one, like you said, it kind of does remind me of the death of Brody Lee, in the sense that upon his passing, you heard all these beautiful stories of who he was that I feel like a lot of us as fans didn't know about. We just see Jay Briscoe the performer. We just see him the wrestler. We just see him
Mm-hmm.
in the ring, and we don't really get a chance to get a ringside seat at his life enough to know who he was as a man. And I think that now we know. And I think the only thing that we can kind of take from this is to just love on your loved ones, be present. Like, life is short, death is real and random, and it sucks. But I think overall, I just wanted to send my love and my prayers out to everyone that has been affected by this tragedy, friend, family, peer. Um, this isn't the easiest thing to cope with and to deal with, but this is kind of where we are, and I'm just sending my love and my prayers and all of this to everyone affected. Think that's really all that I can say about this. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. Um, yeah, that's about all that I can say. Um, I think we're just gonna move on from that because that felt right. Um, we'll talk about the other
That's well
things.
said.
Yeah, we'll talk about the other things and what to unpack from this later. But that felt right. We just need to grieve on that. Um,
Hmm.
Another concerning thing that has been happening in the world of pro wrestling is Kevin Nash. He was recently on his podcast and was talking about his, you know, it's been 3 months, 4 months, I believe it is, since he lost his son. and he made a very, very concerning comment that woke up the wrestling world. And he said, time flies when you got to get your mouth. And his podcast host said, don't joke about that. You can't talk about stuff like that. And Kevin responded with, I can do whatever I want as long as I leave a note. And man, that another incident that shook us. And luckily, not luckily, but there was somebody on Twitter who apparently had been in contact with Kevin Nash, and they said that Kevin doesn't have any intention of hurting himself or harming himself. Um, but I also wanted to know your take on this, and you know how you feel about the Kevin Nash situation as far as his comments, and if we. I know we should be concerned, but I wanted to know just your take on everything that's been happening with Kevin Nash.
Yeah, sure. I put this. Sometimes we forget that wrestlers are humans because they're like these larger than life characters, and we forget that they experience life the same way us regular people experience life. And you look at Kevin Nash and what he's known for and his stature and stuff like that, and you just see a manly man. And I don't
Mm,
think people take like mental health of men like into consideration oftentimes than not. Um, if you look at studies and stuff like that for mental health, like, men are more likely to do things erratically, at least it seems like erratically, and definitively when it comes to their attempts, and people don't really see it coming. We were lucky enough that we caught wind of it off of a podcast, but it made you think like he could have done something in silence. And I don't know, it just got me thinking again, because most people don't take consideration mental health of men often, and what he's going through, or it has to be such a hard situation, man, because I mean, for majority of men that come onto this earth, like your ultimate goal down the line is to definitely procreate, and a lot of men um get excited when they have their firstborn son. You know what I
mm,
mean? It's like your
yeah.
mini you. And nothing hurts more than living a life knowing that you have to bury your son,
Mm,
and on top of that, again, he recently lost his best friend not too long ago within a 365-day time span. And it's a lot. And you can't blame the man for feeling the way that he's feeling. Not that I am at all condoning. I do not at all. It's one to just affirm that I do not condone the idea of entertaining it, but it's just like, what do you even tell a man in that situation
yeah.
when you lose your right hand man and your son? So people were saying, oh, well, he might have been like the influence, or maybe he was just half joking. I think he was entirely dead ass, but he's in a state right now where he's just here existing, because what else do you do, when you're used to having, as he said, three bodies in a house, and now there's two, and as he put it, like, that person's on a vacation, they're not out with their friends, they're not out having a late night, that they're not coming back. That is so hard. And I cannot imagine what he's going through. So my love and my prayers goes out to Kevin Nash and his family. I hope there's a watchful eye on him beyond just one person reaching out to him on Twitter. I hope that there's someone constantly checking in, because, again, the scary thing about men is that you guys are very different from us women.
Yeah.
We tend to wear our emotions on our sleeves a lot more times than not, whereas men tend to harvest their emotions until like they hit a boiling point, and it just happens. And then everyone's like, well, we didn't see the signs. You know what I mean? I wish we would have known, then we would have reacted, we would have helped. So it's alarming to me. um I just hope that he is getting some type of help that he needs to help him cope. Obviously, no amount of therapy is going to help make up for the loss of your son and your best friend, but at least he might have the tools to at least coast by and be able to just come to terms, because I do want to see him around. I do want to see him around, and see him eventually be happy again. But I don't have the right to tell him how
Yeah.
how to feel in a situation like this. I do not. I just wish the best for Kevin Nash. And I'm just gonna leave it on that note. Do you have any takes or anything you would like to add on to that?
Um, to kind of echo what you're saying, that wrestlers are human, and that men are human, and I feel like, as it seems like two very very common statements, but they're very profound, and I also believe that sometimes they get lost in the shuffle because of just life and society as we know it. Uh, Kevin Nash, I feel like, number one, like you said, I hope somebody is keeping a watchable eye on him. I think another big thing for me is just like losing your son and then losing your best friend and then losing your son within the span of a year. These two traumatic events, with one of these things, just one, could do damage on you if they were if it were to happen within a 10-year span. But like two of them happening in the same year is just a different type of pain. And I'm once, like you said, like there is no amount of therapy that can deal with losing your son and losing your best friend. Um, I really want him to be able to cope in a healthy way, and just be able to understand that he carries their spirits with him, and that they will always live in him, and that you know like Kevin is loved on this earth by so many people. And I mean, it may be hard based off of where he is in his life to get that, or he may not even care, just based off of what he's dealing with, which I understand, because this is a lot and this is heavy. um but I think this is just a lesson that we as human beings just need to empathize with each other, because this is a very dark battle to be dealing with. And you don't know what his thoughts are. Well, we know a little bit of his thoughts, unfortunately, but like, it's just, we just have to empathize and sympathize with people regardless of what they may be going through, because it's a lot, and life is a lot, and you get thrown things in situations that you may not have been commonly exposed to, and now you got to learn how to deal with it, even though you have no experience dealing with it. And man, I just want to send my love and my prayers to him and his family. um Godspeed. And we're rooting for you. We're rooting for you, Kevin Nash. We're rooting for the family of Jay Briscoe. We're rooting for the wrestling world. We're rooting for all the wrestlers who are struggling with mental health, that help is out there, that you're not going through this alone. You're not isolated. You're not by yourself. And I think that that's just a message that just needs to continue to be pushed, is that you're not alone and you're not by yourself. And Yeah, I think that's we're gonna end that part on that note. Um, but yeah, I just want to send my love and my prayers to Kevin Nash. So, but now that we have dealt with the two most difficult topics that we could possibly deal with, we can move on. This upcoming Monday, WWE is going to be celebrating the 30th anniversary of Monday Night Raw, live from Philly at the Wells Fargo Center. This lineup is filled with some potentially great segments. We have the Bloodline Acknowledgement Ceremony, which is apparently supposed to feature all generations of the Bloodline. We have the appearance of multiple WWE legends such as Ric Flair, The Undertaker, and members of D-Generation X. We got the Usos versus the Judgment Day for the WWE Tag Team Championships and more. Just off of a first glance, what which segment are you most looking forward to for Raw is 30?
Off of the lineup just listed, I'm actually kind of interested in hearing about not hearing witnessing um the full generation of the bloodline
Yeah.
because I don't think we've seen them all in the same ring. Um Damn, when's the last time I seen Rikishi next to the Usos? Uh, that's gonna be interesting. But that sounds like The Rock might have to come up. If he does make an appearance, I'll be really excited actually. But I think it'd be interesting because they've been kind of somewhat cock cheesing this idea of The Rock showing up or other generational talents from the bloodline. Because I mean, you can't have the name the bloodline and not have the legends
Right.
that jump started this arrive. So I kind of feel more excited for this because I want to see what layers they're going to add. If The Rock could come in and maybe like cut ass on Roman Reigns and make him feel small about himself, considering he looks at himself as like a god, and further this little feud that he has with him and Sammy going on, I think that'd be pretty awesome. You know,
Yeah.
and then maybe he takes it out on Sammy, and then maybe this is a booking decision that twists into The Rock versus um, Roman Reigns down the line. I think that's pretty cool. Ric Flair, I don't care to see. They kind of, he milked his own self with the last two dreadful behind last matches. I didn't watch either of them. I just seen clips, and that's
Right.
nah. It felt abusive for me to even watch. It felt like elderly abuse. And I work with the homeless people. I don't want to see them get abused for a paycheck. So I was not excited to see that. The Undertaker, I mean, again, they beat this man's character over this time and time again. I don't need to see The Undertaker. I think it's only been like what 2 years without him.
Yeah.
We I mean, it's cool, it's nice for the thought. I just don't get any type of feeling. Degeneration X, I haven't wanted to see them ever since the Saudi Arabia show. And Sean's only getting older, and it's weird looking at Sean. I feel uncomfortable every time I see Sean now being bald and being tiny. As far as the tag team match goes, I mean, the Usos versus the Judgment Day, it's kind of whatever. So that lineup is kind of not trash, just underwhelming minus
Mm.
the bloodline. But what are you most excited to see? And your take on the lineup here.
I think the lineup is pretty good considering that it's going to be a 3 hour show. You just kind of need to fill that space with as much as you can, especially if it's an anniversary show. And when you're going to get a hot crowd like Philly, I think you're going to want to give them, everything that they come for. And I think that the nostalgia factor, when you do an anniversary show, the nostalgia factor kind of has to be there. So I understand them bringing back the legends and stuff like that. Um, I think the thing that I'm looking forward the most to is actually the Usos versus the Judgment Day. And obviously, like the bloodline ceremony, I think is going to be interesting because I think they're going to further advance this story and this tension between Sammy, KO, and Roman Reigns. But with the Usos versus the Judgment Day have been building momentum and gaining a lot of favor in the side of the WWE universe. And I'm just very, very interested to see if they're going to use this opportunity to put a chink in the armor of the bloodline. Because I think one of the things that kind of cemented the bloodline as one of the most dominant factions ever is the fact that the Usos are the longest reigning WWE tag team champions of all time. And I think that they have the opportunity to kind of put a chink in that armor, and this could very well be the beginning of the end. And I just also think that this is going to be a good match. I think that the Judgment Day have struck gold, if you will, between Prison Dom and Rhea being kind of like this China esque figure, and Damian Priest and Finn Balor kind of being like the cool dudes in the team. Like I think they've struck a chord, they've gained a rhythm, and they've started to kind of find their rhythm. And I think that this will be a very, very interesting move if they were to win the WWE tag titles. I was gonna also say, hold on, let me make sure I got my stuff together. All right, cool. I was gonna also say,
Mhm.
Raw obviously is considered the longest episodic the longest running episodic show in the history of television, and it has had so many different moments that have defined pro wrestling as we know it today. I wanted to know, do you have like a favorite Raw moment of all time?
It's actually really hard because there's so many. And every time I think like I have like a favorite moment, I go on Twitter and then I see a throwback and I'm like, oh yeah, that happened too. You know what I mean? Like some of the
Yeah,
segments are so fucking ridiculous that it's just funny. Like one of the things that comes to my mind is like what should we call it? That whole thing with Stone Cold and Donald Trump showing up. I think
I
Eric
remember that.
Bischoff was part of it too. It was just so messy and so like well thought out and ridiculous, and them going to court and stuff like that was just like hilarious. You know what I mean? There's like so many things. I can't think of one at the moment. Do you have one on the side while I think about it?
So I think obviously there's so many important moments when it comes to Raw. Obviously, Mankind winning the WWE title, DX storming,
Hmm.
DX storming Nitro. This is your life, the Rock and Mankind segment. However, I think I was more into Raw, obviously because of my age. I was more into Raw during the Ruthless Aggression era, and with that in mind, I think a top five. Well, there's a couple. And I think they're neck and neck. Number one was CM Punk's pipe bomb. Was definitely one of the most memorable moments of Raw. And the next
Hmm.
one would probably have to be when John Cena was drafted to Raw in '05. I think that may have been
Hmm.
one of the biggest moments, or at least one of my favorite moments, because John Cena was the SmackDown guy. He had just won the WWE title from JBL at Mania. And at the time when the draft was going on, Batista was still on Raw. So when Cena arrived to Raw, essentially to kick off his feud with Chris Jericho, it was under the premise and the understanding that Raw had both the world heavyweight champion in Batista and the WWE champion in John Cena. Now, eventually, Batista would move to SmackDown. But just that moment meant so much because I feel like Cena being moved to the flagship was kind of like his I made it moment. Like he was the guy on the show. Um, but that was definitely my favorite Raw moment for sure. Was
That was
Cena getting
cool.
Cena getting drafted. So
Yeah, wasn't that like the turn of him like really being like a baby face?
oh yeah, I mean, like he was
Like
already
he
a
eventually had
babyface
to be like,
before, but like his stock as a babyface went up when he went to Raw because
yeah.
he was facing Jericho, who and obviously Jericho is Jericho. He's like face can be the best heel. So I think that between his two feuds with JBL and Jericho, like his babyface run was just like insane. So, but I don't know
Oh
if you still.
gosh. I'm like looking through a list and I'm like seeing Austin versus McMahon. I completely forgot about how funny that fucking was. God, that whole entire feud of him beating his ass while he was in the hospital. Oh
With the
my
bedpan.
god. Yes. Like I forget about this stuff happened on Raw. Like this was back when like wrestling was at like its peak. Like you would just see entertaining like shit like this every single week, and it was just like a regular Raw. You
Right.
don't like see stuff like this before fucking Y2J arrives. That was fucking fire. I forgot that even the milk
The
segment where
milk
like
truck with Kurt.
fucking Stone
Oh
Cold
my
came out.
god.
I forgot that was on a regular night of Raw. Like you think that that's like a pay per view type of thing because it's just so like ridiculous, you know, for today's standards. But
Yeah.
that was just a regular night of Raw. The milk shit was on a regular night of Raw. Wow, that it's still hard. I don't think I have a favorite segment. I mean, hell, didn't we have Edge and Lita have sex, live sex celebration too?
I know that
That
was your
got
favorite
stopped by
moment.
Ric Flair of all people. I was so confused. I was like, wait, I like them both. I was such a confused child off of that segment. Ric Flair stopping of all people just was crazy. I was just like, I
I thought it was
know
Cena. I thought it was Cena who stopped it
he
because Ric
did,
Flair.
but Ric Flair came out. I
Oh yeah,
watched
he
it again. Ric
did.
Flair cock blocked them.
He did. Wow, I forgot that. And since
And
when
he was
was Ric
slandering them
Flair?
and slut shaming them.
I was about to say, since when was Ric
Can
Flair
you
ever
imagine?
the authority of sex? Like, when did he ever become a
Word.
moral authority of like? Not after that Dark Side of the Ring episode, he should be. But anyway, that's a different topic for a different day.
Word. All right,
but
next topic. Next topic.
but we want to know your favorite Raw moment. Let us know in the comments how you felt. Like, what was your favorite Raw moment? Comment below as we gear up for Raw is 30. So, speaking of WWE, it looks like some of the previously purchased content that WWE has is making its way off of Peacock. A source indicated to Fightful that WWE will be removing the featured independent wrestling promotions from Peacock. This includes libraries of companies such as WXW, Evolve, and more. Insane Championship Wrestling also put out a tweet recently saying that their contract with WWE has ended. So I wanted to know, how significant do you think this move is in the grand scheme of things? How significant is it
I'll
that
be honest.
that indie wrestling is making its way off of WWE?
It's weird because, like, honestly, when they would even mention Evolve or these side things that they would do on, well, back then it was the WWE network. I don't think a lot of people tune into it unless you are a hardcore Indies fan, and I'm not sure if it's because, again, Vince just didn't promote it enough for people to like care about it. Um, I'm a little bit confused. Where is the content going exactly?
So I think it's just being taken down. Like, I think that when it came to like these indie promotions that they were doing business with, a lot of them
Hmm.
were, it was just, it wasn't like they bought the companies. I think they bought Evolve, but
Yeah,
they, like other companies, it was just like they had like some form of distribution deal with WWE so that their content could
yeah,
go on the WWE network, which later translated into Peacock. But like Progress was one of those companies. ICW was another one of those companies. So, I think it was more so just like leasing content than buying content. And I think it's probably going to go back to like the respective owners. So like a Progress is probably going to go back to Progress on Demand or something like that. So
mm, okay. Well, that's interesting. I mean, again, they don't the show or the content of WWE doesn't really change whether they have them here or is being removed. So I don't find it significant. Just
mm,
because me personally, I'd never heard a single soul talk about it unless, again, you were that much into WWE and indie wrestling simultaneously, which is conflicting too. Like I said, this show prides itself on more so sports entertainment than anything. So it felt weird watching these
yeah,
promotions sometimes because they never added to anything. It was just to see like a good match happen that no one would talk about.
right.
So, I mean, I guess that's good. There's more space for them to do other things. What do you think?
I think I don't think that it's super important that it's being removed. Just because, like you said, I think that the whole point was to eventually pull talent from those places and then be able to have access to that content in order to, you know, show the importance of this character or show the importance of a certain storyline or something like that. But when we look at the current WWE roster, there isn't a there are a good amount of people, but there aren't a lot of mainstream stars that have deep catalogs in these other companies. And if they do, it's not as significant as what they're doing in WWE. Like or applicable, I should say. I feel like the
Yeah.
content in the indies doesn't apply to certain stars that went through those indies and then went to WWE, because 9 times out of 10 they're a completely different person in WWE than they were on the indies. You know what I mean? Now, I
Hmm.
feel like now
Yeah.
business is still open to the point where like now if they wanted to like lease content from like a Progress, they can do that, or ICW, they can do that, but I don't think it's worth buying the entire
Yeah.
library for. And I think that also, I think the major point of buying or leasing these libraries was to build up the value of the WWE network for some form of sale to Peacock, which happened, right? Like they got $1 billion deal for the network for 5 years, I think it was. So it's like it already happened, right? Like the whole point of what they were doing was accomplished. So now that it's accomplished, the focus is still primarily on WWE content, not necessarily the indie content. So I think that they
Yo, can
got
they
their
add the
number.
fun stuff that the other network had? I miss when they
Like,
had like table for threes and stuff like that.
yeah, I think that they should
I
bring those
miss
back.
that.
I think that they should bring those back, but I think that the question is like, where's WWE Network as far as like their content development is concerned? Is it on pause because they want to sell the company and then they want to let whoever they sell it to deal with the development, or what may have you? Because like before Peacock, the network was an entity on its own. It kind of functioned the way that an MTV or a
Right.
BET would function as it pertains to like they were creating their own programs. But we don't know like what their agreement with Peacock is, but I would love to see, because I think that I actually think that there are new table for threes, but I just haven't heard them like that. You know what I mean? Like at least when there were
Hmm.
table for threes, like when they first came out, like you saw it about it a lot on WWE programming, and I don't hear about it as much. But then again, I could be missing on something. So you know, you know how that
I feel like
goes.
someone would definitely bring it up. But go on. Next topic.
Next topic. So, obviously, one of the hottest issues in the wrestling world has been the potential sale of WWE. Uh, and so much so that WWE legend The Rock had to chime in on his latest appearance on CNBC. The Rock said that if the WWE has new owners, that they have to possess the same passion for pro wrestling that Vince McMahon has. Do you agree with the Rock statement that in order to buy WWE and successfully run it, that you have to have that Vince factor to you?
Yeah. Yeah, because when Vince was actually running shit correctly before he got old and demented, um,
Mm,
this show was great. And you had to be a little bit of a passionate lunatic. Like you have to be obsessed with this to really run a wrestling promotion. You know what I mean? Oops, I dropped my phone. Um, you have to like really have a sick love for this show, and you have to be a long-term fan. I don't want to see anyone here involved getting their fingerprints on this that sometimes watch WWE or haven't watched since The Rock versus Stone Cold or whatnot. No, I want like us like I'm not saying be a full-on mark, but be like somewhat like keep up with something with
mm,
the show because I want someone as passionate running the business and making decisions because they're going to understand what the audience wants, what the talent wants, what the networks wants. That was say what you want about Vince. I'm talking about like prime Vince McMahon. He was a businessman, all right.
phew,
He knew what to do to get ratings. He knew what to do to keep this show going on the road. He knew what to do to make this like the longest running TV program in I don't know, is it America? Is it just in America? Is it ever in the world? I don't know. But Vince did that. And I need someone else that's going to replace that if they're going to. So I
mm.
don't think The Rock was wrong if you're thinking about the correct or the better era of Vince and not the decline. What do you think?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. We have to acknowledge and align on the fact that Vince McMahon's prime is 20 times better than any wrestling mind in any wrestling promotion ever. This man was responsible for creating the greatest pro wrestling character ever, in my opinion, with the Undertaker. And when we look at his attitude, his mindset from the 80s into the 90s, this is someone who, for I guess the better part of 3 decades, and we're just talking about like his prime before fans started being overly critical. For the better part of 3 decades, this was somebody who was in touch with what was going on in the culture and society and his product all at the same time, because you can't evolve your product unless you're in touch with culture and society and your product at the same time. Like to be able to go from Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage to and Ultimate Warrior to going to Austin and The Rock and Triple H to going to John Cena and Batista and Randy Orton. Like these are all characters that tapped into the desires and the needs of culture and society. And Vince McMahon deserves a lot of credit for that. And so I think that if we're talking about owners that want to buy WWE and continue to make money off of WWE in a way in which would profit them for the long run, they need to be in touch with the product the way that Vince McMahon was during his prime, because that's the only way that the product is going to grow. It's the only way that the product is going to continue to be profitable. So I agree with The Rock on that point. But this is another, and this is where this gets interesting. I'm gonna go into the next topic, but it's still the same topic, because speaking of potential buyers for WWE, one of the rumored suitors for the purchase of the billion-dollar company is none other than the founder, head of creative, and CEO of All Elite Wrestling, in Tony Khan. While he was on the Maggie and Perloff show, I think it is, or Maggie Perloff show, he stated that if there is a process there, which it sounds like there is, there may be, I'm interested in being part of it. Do you believe that Tony Khan would purchase WWE? Do you think that the Khans would purchase WWE?
Oh hell yeah, yeah. If you're really trying to like make this just like the WWE or WWF versus like WCW type of shit, that like what pulling a Vince and just buying the rival, I could totally see Tony Khan being the mark that he is doing that. Do I think it's a good decision to do? No, no,
Mm,
because we kind of need that competition nowadays. Because it kind of is what is helping us continue to watch wrestling.
yeah,
And it's keeping it more interesting because, like, you know, when people like become a free agent, it's kind of fun to watch, like, oh, where are they going to go now? Are they going to go to WWE? They're going to go to New Japan? They're going to go to AEW? Like, it's the controversy that's going on right now. I just don't think it'd be like a smart business move in the long run to buy WWE, and also considering like how different they purposely try to create AEW to be. I feel like it'd
mm,
be weird just for like a bunch of wrestlers to have to like learn how to convert to a different layout, because there's some wrestlers where, yeah, despite how Vince is shitty and how a lot of people aren't happy at WWE, that doesn't mean that all of the talents there are miserable at WWE. Some of them are very much satisfied with their paycheck, with the rules that they're given, and the lifestyle that they have from WWE. It's
yeah.
like if Tony Khan were to purchase WWE, would he make everyone get like with this more kind of slightly indie format? I say kind of slightly indie because I feel like as I watch the show progress, and even with like the show and the production changing, it is kind of becoming a more polished WWE with more focus on wrestling.
Yeah.
But it's just like, how would the talents adapt to that? I could imagine a handful would be happy just because there probably are a handful of them that are waiting for their contracts to fucking hurry up already so they could just go to AEW. But I feel like it'd be odd. It's not wrong. I'm not gonna say that's wrong, but right now I feel like it's so soon because you just started your company. Like you just started your company. But I mean, I cannot say that it wouldn't be a gigantic W for a company that's only been up and running for over 3 years. Literally just bought out like the biggest wrestling company on the entire planet. I don't know. What do you think about that? This is
So I
spicy.
think it is. This is spicy, and it's interesting. So, like, I'll reference another. So Nick Khan, who I don't think has any relation to Tony Khan,
Nope.
was on the Bill Simmons podcast, and he was talking spicy about AEW. He was like,
Ooh.
"Oh, well," when referencing Tony Khan, he was like, "Man, well, it's easy." They were talking about AEW, and he said, "Well, it's easy to run a business when it's at a loss." And I was just like, that's tough. And he was talking about, I mean,
Oh.
he touched on a bunch of different things, but here's what I will say. I think that if Tony Khan were to buy WWE, he would let WWE run the way that it's being ran now. Because just because you own something doesn't necessarily that mean that you manage it or that you take the responsibility to manage it. It's kind of like real estate, right? Like you can own a piece of property
Yeah.
and then give an equity stake to someone for them to manage the property. So ownership doesn't necessarily
Mm.
mean management. So I think that because AEW is Tony Khan's baby and Ring of Honor is like another one of Tony Khan's babies, he would relegate his focus on AEW Ring of Honor and just let WWE continue to be ran the way that it's supposed to be ran. Now, as it pertains to if there
Really?
is a
Wow.
possibility, yeah, I think so. I think that as it pertains to the possibility of him buying it, I would say yes. There's always that possibility. Like when we look at the business portfolio outside of AEW, this is someone who is involved in football overseas. He is involved with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, his family is $1 billion family. They have the money and the assets to purchase WWE. They can do it if they wanted to. Um, Now, will they? I don't know if they will. I don't know if WWE would accept their offer because of who he is. But you know, I think that they can make a run for it. I don't think that Tony would try to to manage WWE. I think he would buy it just for the sake of having certain people on his show. I would listen. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if Tony bought WWE so that he could do as many WWE AEW crossovers as he would like. Imagine
Oh
you
yeah,
got
Bianca versus Jay would be the first thing.
imagine you got a Bianca
Yeah.
versus Jade. Imagine you're dealing
Kenny
with
Omega versus Roman.
Kenny Omega versus Roman, Kenny Omega versus AJ Styles. You know, depending on where they go with this Jay White thing, you can have a Jay White versus Edge. You know what I'm saying? There's so many different crossovers that you can have with AEW and WWE that I think that the idea of buying WWE is appealing to him, not necessarily for the potential of him managing it, but just for the potential of how he can benefit his AEW product. Because I mean, the crossovers would be endless. You know what I'm saying? So that's my little take
Yeah.
on if Tony. But we want to know what y'all think. Do you believe that Tony Khan would purchase WWE? Let us know in the comments. But we're moving on. As of this week, it has officially been 6 months since Triple H has taken over as the chief content officer and has been the head of creative for WWE. Because it's kind of 6 months in, obviously it's still a little early, but I wanted to know, um, how do you feel the product has changed? Has the product changed since Triple H has become the head of creative at WWE?
It changed subtly.
Mm,
It changed in like the aspect that there's a lot of focus on the mid card titles, and the mid card titles do feel prestigious, and they do feel just as important, in my personal opinion, with the way they've been booking Gunther, and they've been put on these long matches, very good matches. I mean, Gunther is
yeah.
just fucking amazing. What, he's so good, bro, that he made Braun look good. They had people on the internet trying to put over Braun. All right, no. That was Gunther. That was the magic of Gunther. Okay, don't you play with me. Anyway, back to my point. Back to my point. Because I can go on a whole rant about Braun. Uh,
Literally.
yeah, no. I feel like there's been a wide focus on, yes, the mid card titles, IC title especially, yes, US title, yes. Tag team wrestling feels important. Like I know that was completely a Triple H move for what they try to do with the New Day, and I love that
Absolutely.
and support it. Um, I see his influence with the women, even though I don't think it's been a amazing job. Like you could see that as a bunch of Triple H isms. I'm gonna call it
Hmm.
HHH isms, but yeah, Hunter isms. There we go, Hunter isms. Yes, I
Hunterism.
see a bunch of Hunter isms with with the formation of Damage Control, with the returns of people like Tegan Knox and stuff like that, and Emma. But the bookings just haven't really been it with the women. It hasn't been something where it's like, all right, he's good with making the returns and getting a pop out of us with the returns, but then when it comes to like the meat of everything, the storylines, like I don't really see much investment. I think the best that it's got so far was what just happened on Monday, with seeing Becky Lynch and Bailey go at it. That was actually fucking hilarious. But I mean, they're the four horsewomen. Like, duh. Of course, they're going to put on an amazing freaking segment. Um, so I feel like they are lacking with the women. Ronda Rousey's reign went on far too long, as did Liv's, in my personal opinion. Um, Shit, I expect underneath Triple H's reign, Shayna would have had the belt by now, but it is what it
Mm,
is. The men, I feel like he's been doing well with the men in general. The bloodline is the best thing that's on all the brands. Um, like Sammy is like literally the best fucking human out of the whole entire like show right now. Fucking love everything that Sammy's doing. That's been great. Otherwise I feel like Raw is very boring. It's still boring. I hope for better, but like I said, or you said, it's only been 6 months. So I don't know how much more time I could give him on trying to resuscitate the show, because what I'm concluding off of watching Hunter is that he's much better at booking either like a pay-per-view or booking a short show like how NXT 1.0 was. I think it was like, what was it, an
yes.
hour
It was an
back
hour.
then? It was
Yeah.
an hour. But it was a spicy good hour
It was a
where he
tangy
was able to
hour.
shove in, yeah, very tangy, exquisite.
Tangy.
They were they were able to, um I think he was much better because he was able to rotate and take time with telling stories when it came to
Mm-hmm.
1.0. And I think that he's struggling with having to paint out 5 hours, which I can't blame him, because 3 hours is considered long for a movie. And to sit there and like have to book 3 hours for Raw and then book 2 hours for SmackDown Weekly, that's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And then it makes you think, like, how the hell did Vince do it for so long? So I don't want to be so hard on him because it's a difficult role. I don't think he's bad at what he does. I just think that he's better when he's just given a smaller task, like, hey Hunter, just book the Royal Rumble. Book another pay-per-view. Book, you know what I mean? Like, maybe just work on the mid card, maybe just work on the women. I feel like it's just a lot for him, so I
Mm-hmm.
give him like a C plus. C plus sounds just about fine in my book. C plus. What would you rate Hunter?
I would rate Hunter as a B minus or a B. I think that
Oh, you're so
he,
nice.
he spent he spent, because there's one thing that you didn't mention that I feel like you should mention. So I feel like,
Okay.
yes, the women. I actually agree with everything that you said, but there were just a couple of things that he did improve on that weren't there before. Number one,
Like,
factions. The return of LDF
yeah.
and bringing back Hit Row has drastically increased the depth of the tag team division, and has also put certain people in positions to win those now established prestigious mid-card titles, like Escobar, you know what I mean? And with the SmackDown World Cup, they've been able to touch on character development on guys that were previously underutilized, like Mustafa Ali, like Ricochet. And I feel like they've been
Yeah.
able to put a spotlight on guys that were underutilized, and but now they're slowly, gradually pushing them to being top guys, right? Like Ricochet with the, being a part of the SmackDown World Cup, and Mustafa Ali with his feud with now Dolph Ziggler. They're giving him character development, and but they're doing it in a way where they don't feel like they're just putting the rocket on them and just strapping them up to the top. It's slow, it's gradual, it's building character development, and it's utilizing guys that we know have been super talented for super long, but just never had the chance. And I think stuff like that is the reason why I would give him a B. Also, just off of the return of Bray Wyatt alone and his feud with LA Knight, I think is a reason to give him a B. And here's the reason why. Because back one of the things that made the Ruthless Aggression era special and the Attitude era special is you had your championship feuds, you had your main event feuds, but you also had your B feuds in that same main event space. in that same top guy space. Feuds that weren't necessarily for a title, but because of who was involved, they had title implications. And they feature guys who, even though they didn't have a championship, they were captivating and they were charismatic enough for you to still pay attention. We saw that with the Ruthless Aggression era when it came to Chris Jericho, when it came to Christian, when it came to at times JBL, when it came to at times the Big Show, Rey Mysterio. For some reason, that kind of got lost in the shuffle as Raw went to 3 hours. But with this LA Knight Bray Wyatt thing, now we have two guys that you can see as main eventers, very charismatic, very captivating, in a feud that you probably wouldn't have got under Vince McMahon. And you can tell that they are moving towards championship gold, but you can tell that they're just still developing them. I think that this more so, the reason why I say it's a B isn't necessarily because of the show quality. It's because you're starting to see the formation of a lot of things take shape. And I feel like the formation of these things are taking shape all the while Hunter is learning how to book for a 3 hour show. Not in the sense of like he didn't know how to do it before, but he's more hands on now than he was when Vince was in control, right? He only had to worry about, like you said, an hour with NXT. So to go from 1 hour to 5 hours is insane. So I think that he's still finding his footing, but you can also see the formation of a lot of other things. And I think that that's really exciting. I think that that's really, really cool. But I agree with you. I think there are some ways to go. Um, there are some ways to go, and I'll keep on reevaluating. And of course, we're going to keep reevaluating. But I want to know what everybody else feels about Hunter. How would you grade his first 6 months as the chief content officer? So, and this I think is probably going to be our last topic of the day. Cody Rhodes, our favorite civil rights
You didn't want to
activist,
sneak in that
has
one
official.
thing?
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's just that we had one more thing to add after that
Oh yeah, my
from
bad.
the group
I'm
chat.
I'm, I'm tweaking.
I still want to hear your
Our
rant.
um Cody Rhodes, our favorite civil rights activist, has announced his return to the WWE, and it is confirmed that he will be an entrant in this year's Royal Rumble. Now, a lot of people were disappointed at the fact that he wasn't a surprise entrant. But I think the announcement is saying something about Cody and his momentum. Do you still believe that Cody will be this year's Royal Rumble winner? I should say, not winter.
Winter. I mean, we are in the winter. Um, I feel like the only person that would be exciting to win is Cody. Like, if you want to
Mm,
like have a surprise entrant, which I mean, they kind of blew the surprise by advertising him every single week since like last month. But I
mm,
still feel like if you want to have like a fun behind men's Royal Rumble, where you can still tell stories, you can still tell every single story that's been going on the show in the Royal Rumble. But I feel like the best way to present Cody after a heroic win going out the way that he did and to really capitalize on the way they packaged him in his ad on him coming back and them going through how hard it was for him to deal with the injury and the recovery process and to get back into the ring and be that guy again and get back 100% is to have him come back as a surprise. I don't know which entrant, but have him come back somewhere towards the end and have him just like eliminate hella people, have him eliminate hell of people, tell a story. If he does see Seth Rollins again, I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they picked up from where they left off, just to continue something on while he works his way towards Roman at some point or whatever. I think it'd be awesome if they did have him come in, rip through a bunch of men, maybe have him come face to face with Seth Rollins, and he acts like he's seen a ghost because last time he checked, he did get his ass beat by a man that had literally a purple chest. There's all this
mm-hmm.
purple and black and blue just spreading all the way down his arm. He was limping and fighting to do like little suplexes and stuff like that. He still beat your ass. And now he's back and he's on a roll and he's zeroing in on you. It tells a story within the ring. I think it'd be fun. It
I
definitely
agree.
would make up for the lackluster show that we had last year. So yeah, have Cody win. I have yet to figure out my female winner, but Cody should come back and Cody should win. I stand on it.
M-
What do you think?
My my female winner is probably going to be Rhea, but as far as Cody is concerned, yeah, he should be the winner. I think that there's a built-in story already there as it pertains to Cody as far as like his return, his pursuit of a world title. The story is already there. The momentum is already behind him. He's clearly one of the most over baby faces in the company, even though he hasn't been in the company and actually an active in-ring competitor in months. And I think that he is just bound to be this year's winner. I think that the reason why he has this big push behind him is just because it's Cody Rhodes. You know what I mean? Like Cody has proven his value since he stepped away from WWE, and upon his return, he's being treated like a main eventer, and I think he is a main eventer, and he's going to get that treatment. And announcing you're going to be in the Royal Rumble with a series of vignettes, I think, is a very main event guy thing to do. So I think
Yes.
that we're definitely going to see Cody win the Rumble, and I'm very, very excited for it because Cody deserves to win the Rumble. He, you know, obviously stepped away to do AEW, and now he's back, and I just think that he's just the perfect. I think he's going to be a great world champion. And another hot take, I feel like he's going to introduce a new title design. I think it's about that time that
Ooh.
he's gonna. I think if Cody, because the last time Cody, not the last time, but Cody has a history of debuting title designs at WWE that stick, aka that white Intercontinental Championship. So I
Mm.
think that because of that history, he's probably going to come back and debut a new belt if he wins the title. Um, but we'll see.
A
We'll see what
hunterism.
happens. Um, but I want to know everybody else's opinion. Uh, do you believe that Cody is going to win the Royal Rumble? Now,
And I
the
also wait. I figured out my female winner. Naomi needs to come back. That's the only way you could package Naomi. She needs to come back. They need to capitalize off the fact that Sasha had a debut in New Japan, and they need to have Naomi come back as a surprise entrance and finally have her win, considering she's been very underrated. And the Royal Rumble is literally her pay per view. It's her pay
very
per view.
true.
All right,
That's
and I'm
very
sick and
true.
tired of my girl not winning. But the best way to bring her back is, yeah, capitalize off the fact that, yeah, you confused us by having her be in New Japan and we thought she was going to come back and da 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 da. No, she's coming back. And she's coming back for everybody. Right? So I want Naomi to win. Sorry, that's my little tidbit. I had to get that out there.
You're good. You're good. And I wouldn't be mad at that at all. So now you said you wanted me to go off. Is it about what we talked about before, or
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. This needs to be addressed. This news is everywhere.
as far as context clues?
How AEW
Ah,
was
okay.
unable
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
to
So
give.
so what Mo is talking about is AEW was unable to give Jay Briscoe a tribute dynamite. Tony Khan pivoted and he created a Jay Briscoe tribute show. Um, he created a Jay Briscoe tribute show that's going to be available, I think, on Honor Club for free or on the Ring of Honor YouTube for free. Um, which I thought was the right thing to do. But AEW didn't. I mean, not AEW, but Warner Brothers Discovery did not give AEW the right to do a Jay Briscoe uh, tribute show because of his, a history of controversial comments. Um, and I kind of did want to touch on that a little bit. Mo, you can give your little 2 cents as well. Um, I think my biggest question
Oh,
is
you
where do we
first.
draw? I think my biggest question is where do we draw the line? Because if we're judging Jay Briscoe based on the same standards that we are judging the rest of the roster, Sammy Guevara wouldn't be on TV. Chris Jericho wouldn't be there. Darby Allen wouldn't be on TV. There's so many different characters that have a controversial past, not just with words, but with actions as well. And I just find it very, very interesting and kind of disturbing that people pick and choose who they want to chastise. Now, if it was just a matter of like, the company or WBD kind of finding this out after they got AEW in a contract and finding out about the Jericho comments and the Sammy Guevara thing and the Darby Allin accusations, and they just kind of wanted to just do damage control. I understand that, but at the same time, I also just think that it's kind of unfair that that you are picking and choosing who you want to play morals with and who you want to have this moral high ground, especially when the lead in for AEW Dynamite last night was a show produced by Dana White, who was just literally slapping salvation out of his wife on TMZ. I don't think that that's right. I think that there's a double standard, and I think that that needs to be addressed. If Dana White could have his own show after abusing his wife, then I don't think that people need to be on as harsh on Jay Briscoe as they are. And that's really all that I have to say. I think that the double standard is off. It's annoying. It's unethical. But I did want to know what Mo. I know what Mo feels, but I definitely want to get this on record.
I think it's a load of bullshit. Like, literally, as I stated prior, this man went out being a father, taking his
Mm-hmm.
little girl to cheer practice. And both of them are hospitalized. And there's been a report, as I said, one of them's half paralyzed. You don't think that either one of them wanted to just tune in and maybe see something that would have just put a smile on their faces and just be able to see their father painted in a brighter light?
Mm.
I'm not condoning anything that this man has done in the past with his character. I'm not. The man has since apologized openly when he was champion at some point, and he even said that it bothered him personally that his comments affected his own fans. There was an account that had Jay Briscoe somewhere in there, and that person made a comment along the lines saying, that like he didn't know that he was like as shitty as a person in real life as his hillbilly character, and like, yeah, it does hurt them, it does affect them, it does bother them, and that comment affected Jay Briscoe because he understood that he was playing a character, but he is not a reflection of who he actually is. I'm not condoning the comments that he said, but he did go out of his way to apologize and try to do better since. And I mean, isn't that like the point? You know what I mean? You can't lash everyone forever. I mean, I feel like if you put forth effort to try to be a better human and a better person, you should be commended for your progress and you shouldn't be shamed to your grave for a mistake you made many years ago. If you are, again, not only just apologizing, but you're putting forth the effort to be a better human. And it pisses me off. It pisses me off for these little girls and for his wife and for his brother and everyone in that locker room that was privileged enough to come into the graces of Jay Briscoe, to where they couldn't get the fucking closure that they all could have used that day,
Right.
and just give a tribute. I was watching the show and some elements of the show felt so off on AEW that night. It did feel like some wrestlers were trying to be in character, but there was a little bit of somberness. I know that some of it has to play with their character and the role that was designated, but it was very much off. And I see some wrestlers, I think Bandito wore a J armband to try to pay homage, and that was the most we really
Yeah.
got all night because you guys wouldn't let any of these people grieve and get closure. And by the way, while I'm on this topic, shout out to Shawn Michaels' call for NXT. I saw a report
Yes.
where the New Day was going to have a funeral segment with the opponent team, and with the news coming out, I think within an hour before the show was going to start, there was a call to cut that segment and do something completely different. So shout out to them. But I feel like everyone was awaiting this to grieve. And I feel like tributes are very much necessary. Not the bullshit tributes where you just flash a picture on a screen and you just put the year they were born to the year that they died. No, like a Eddie Guerrero like tribute where everyone
Yes.
gets to come out and share their condolences and share how this person impacted their life. You know what I mean? So instead of um grieving their death, they could celebrate their life.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone could have used that. And I just think it's cruel. And I think that it's fucked up to hang those comments over his head and grave. Meanwhile, as Jordan has stated with multiple examples and antidotes, that there's a bunch of shitty people signed to this network with the evidence out there, whether it's in print or in audio, and they're being signed and giving TV time, title belt, sponsorships, and all that stuff. This man couldn't even correctly rest in peace because you're
Mm.
hanging that over his head. Meanwhile, there's a piece of shit man that just beat the living shit on video out of his wife. The double standard to me is insane. If you're gonna have that energy across the board. Then I can't be upset with you because I'm like, all right, they cut this person, this person, this person, this person. They all got the same lashing. That I could get with.
Right.
But don't pick and choose, especially again when this man went out being a father. This has me all types of fucked up.
Mm.
Like I'm in the process of grieving just like the rest of y'all, and it sucks. It sucks for the wrestlers that the best that they could do as far as, the grievance, and thank you again, shout out to Tony Khan for still posting some type of tribute somewhere, and I'm pretty sure the network is not okay with that. But it sucks that wrestlers had to go about their grievance on Twitter
Mm.
and social media when, again, it should have been a moment for everyone to in person come out together and just to genuinely feel, you know. So, man, that's just my take on it. Fuck the network, fuck the network, man. I'm just, I'm just irritated. That's me being a little bit tame. That's me just being a little bit tame for the sake
Yeah, I was
of,
about to say
of
you
my
holding it down right
swearing.
now. I was about to say you
That
holding it down right
no,
now.
because you know how bad my mouth is, and I'm like, yeah, we're going up on YouTube. I can't, I can't.
Yeah.
But that had to get out there. So fuck the network, man. Again, shout out to Tony, shout out to Shawn Michaels, shout out to everyone that was able to try to give a piece, a think piece of how that man impacted their life. Hopefully, like something is done personally
Yeah.
for the family of Jay Briscoe. I would love to see something, especially for the daughters that are again in a healing process right now. Just man, I'm hot. I'm very hot. We might have to cut it right here, Jordan, because
So
I
yeah,
feel myself getting one right here.
I was about to say, because I know you keep going, but we're gonna end the show on this note. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I think we may be doing New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom 17 predictions. Also, another thing to highlight: this is our 5th anniversary. This is Culture 316 has been around for 5 years. Started off with Angie and I. Angie still, he's still a part of the family. Mo is here now,
And
but
doing
for the
moonsaults.
rest exactly, Whitney, Nora, um we're going to be celebrating our 5th anniversary all year long. And yeah, the only reason why I didn't put it at the top of the show is just because of the nature of the show, but we will be celebrating our 5th anniversary all year long. But once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.